Welcome to another video with PulseFeed 360. We have a very vital thing to share with you today. Stay with us, watch to the end, and enjoy. Let's get right into it.
They came at dusk. The night terror took over two Kwara villages and left Nigeria asking hard questions. Nigeria is reeling after a brutal wave of violence that turned to peaceful villages in Kwara State into scenes of smoke, gunfire, and mass graves. Residents of Woro and Nuku say the attackers arrived just after sunset, heavily armed, coordinated, and ruthless. Within hours, families were torn apart, homes were burned to ashes, and entire streets were emptied by fear. And the death toll still climbing. Accept our doctrine or else. According to local officials and survivors, the extremists had earlier contacted the communities, saying they wanted to introduce a strict religious ideology. Villagers reportedly rejected the demand and organized local security. Days after, the retaliation came. Gunmen stormed the villages in what many are calling a punishment attack, unleashing chaos that lasted for hours. However, most of the victims were Muslims. Local officials and the Kwara State government reported that the people killed were largely moderate Muslims from those communities, who refused to adopt the extremist version of religious rules. And as it concerned now, according to some local reports, about 95% of those killed were Muslims, and a small minority were Christians, reflecting the religious makeup of the villages rather than a targeted attack against an entire faith group. The Kwara higher authorities, including the governor, said the assault was motivated by extremist ideology, specifically the victims' refusal to submit to the attackers' version of Sharia law, rather than solely because they were Muslims. So the ideology the extremists brought had no way out than to take lives in order to have them to rare submission. For hours of pure horror, witnesses describe a nightmare that began around 5 p.m. and stretched deep into the evening. People shot at close range, houses and shops set on fire, dozens abducted and families fleeing into surrounding bushes. Among the dead were two sons of a traditional ruler, while members of his family were kidnapped, a devastating blow to the community's leadership. The numbers keep rising. The full scale of the massacre is still unfolding. Early reports confirmed 75 deaths. Local sources say 78 people have already been buried. Human rights observers estimate over 170 victims. At least 38 people abducted. Search teams still recovering bodies. Many victims were reportedly executed at close range, while others were burned alive inside their homes. Where was the security? Rights groups and residents are furious, pointing to what they describe as a shocking lack of protection. Despite warnings of extremist activity in the area, communities say they were left to defend themselves, a dangerous reality, becoming more common across rural Nigeria. Government reacts, troops deployed. President Bola Tinubu has ordered an army battalion into the affected region. State officials say the massacre may have been retaliation for recent military operations that disrupted militant networks. Meanwhile, Nigeria confirmed the presence of U.S. military personnel, providing intelligence support, a sign of growing international concern over the country's worsening security crisis. Nigeria's bigger security storm. The country is battling multiple, overlapping threats: Islamist insurgency, armed banditry and kidnapping, farmer-herder clashes, separatist tensions with more than 250 ethnic groups, and deep religious diversity. Attacks like this risk deepening divisions in already fragile communities. However, President Bola Tinubu met with the governor of Kwara State, Abdulrahman Abdulrazak, following the deadly attack on several villages in the state. The meeting took place at the presidential villa in Abuja during a security briefing, where the governor formally updated the president on the situation on the ground. Discussions focused on the deployment of security forces and other strategic measures aimed at restoring peace and protecting communities across the affected villages and surrounding areas. The meeting was held within days of the violence, as part of the federal government's immediate response to the aftermath of the attacks.
Welcome back to PulseFeed 360. We're thrilled to share our latest growth updates and new features. Dive in and discover what's new today.